Welcome to TNZ Talk with radio veteran Tony Trupiano and Huffington Post blogger and writer at Liberals Unite, Richard Zombeck, where they do lean left, but always talk straight.
There's something happening here. This land is your land. It takes them to tear the fascists down, down, down.
There is power in our union. You fascists
TNZTalk.com is information central for the show, including a place to make a donation, subscribe to the show, listen and get the archives, and to find your favorite player. Check us out now at TNZTalk.com.
Oh, and everybody, welcome to this Tuesday, September 20th, 2016 edition of T&Z Talk. And a pleasure to be with you this morning. I am Tony Trupiano, the T in TNZ. Joining me now is Richard Zombeck. Yes, you guessed it, the Z in T&Z. And Mr. Zombeck, a pleasure to be with you again today for this informational podcast. I hope you're well, sir.
Well, the pleasure's all mine, Tony, as usual.
Well, don't I appreciate that?
As usual.
You know, since we did the podcast yesterday, there's been some really weird stuff. We really didn't talk. In fact, we didn't talk at all about the bombings in New Jersey and New York, and it probably would benefit us to do that this good day. It's, you know, once again, Trump overreacts, Hillary acts presidential, and is it going to matter? Now, I will say that over the last week, Trump was in the polls, and we talked about the polls yesterday, but last week Trump in the polls had really gained a lot of traction. In the last week, he's lost some of that traction. And so before, and I do want to talk a little bit about the debates next Monday for a minute, but before we do that, you know, certainly everybody's calling this an act of terror. The psycho that did this was a radicalized Muslim, had traveled to Pakistan many times and Afghanistan many times, and let's give credit where it's due. The police found him. This guy was sloppy, left a fingerprint on one of the bombs. But what I thought was just absolutely freaking stupid, one of the cell phones was registered to a family member.
Yeah, there's some brilliance going on there.
And so,
smart,
you know,
smart guy, as we say in Boston. You're one of them smart kids.
Right. Well, you know, and interestingly, Z, you know, there was, and we mentioned this quickly on the show yesterday, that Trump was calling for an immediate shutdown of all immigrants into the country, which was technically not true. Well, it wasn't really true.
Oh,
no? No, he didn't call for a complete shutdown of immigrants into the country, but he did, of course, use inflamed rhetoric. Hillary Clinton said that he is aiding and abetting the enemy. He turned around and said that basically she's soft on terrorism and just wants as many immigrants in this country as we can possibly get. We do know that Donald Trump has been used in 2 ISIS videos to recruit, and that's not a good thing. I don't know that he's aiding and abetting the enemy, but it certainly does make for interesting dialogue. At the end of the day, though, as the Washington Post pointed out today, Hillary Clinton acted presidential, and the subhead was, Donald Trump did not. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, that had to have been a really easy article to write.
Which, you know, brings us back to the insanity. Let me just share with you, and this was just so freaking stupid. I had posted a story on social media yesterday about Chris Christie and the prosecutors now drawing him in, saying that, yeah, he did indeed know in advance. One of Christie's aides has gone turncoat and it was either given a lighter sentence or immunity for testifying for the prosecution, who said, yes, Chris Christie definitively knew that they were going to shut down the George Washington Bridge as a retaliation for the mayor. So anyway, with all that said, I post that story. This guy this morning tries to equate the closing of the bridge to Black Lives Matters closing off roads. Now, I can see
that's a reach.
It is a reach, and I pointed that out to him. That one, of course, was done with pride and purpose, and it was overt, and there was no retaliation involved. The other one, well, was not. And he starts trying to put the screws to me. Ends up quoting Lewis that he was trying to build an army of 10,000 soldiers to kill whites, etc., etc. So I go check out his Facebook page. He had 87 friends. He was posting a bunch of pro-Trump, pro-Christie stuff. Nobody was responding to it. Nobody was liking anything he was posting. So I go back to my Facebook page. This is this morning. And that's it. I, was reading news, getting ready for the show. And I noticed that he responded to my last post, which was, take your racist attitude and go where you are welcome, which is not here. So just go away. So he responds to that. I go to click on, and I notice that all of a sudden his profile is not clickable. So he's blocked me from his Facebook page. Not having any idea that I went there. I didn't post anything. But now he's blocked me, and I haven't heard a word from him since I told him to take his racist ass and go elsewhere. But,
you big meanie.
Well, now, let me just tell you, by extension, and I'll make this story very short, I posted another story this morning, and somebody, of course, responded in a pro-Trump manner. In fact, the story I posted, and we're going to get to this, is George Herbert Walker Bush has made it clear he's voting for Hillary Clinton. And so this guy, posts this pro-Trump thing, and I go to his Facebook page where he has no friends and has never posted anything. So obviously he's a poser.
Troll.
It's just blowing my mind.
It's a troll. I mean, so social media, Twitter, and all has completely ruined the dialogue around here. I mean, it's given people like us plenty of fodder to be incensed and shocked and in awe about. But I mean, you have these people like you saw with this one Facebook account. Hundreds of these are being set up. I get attacked on Twitter all the time, and I go look at who's attacking me, and it's like someone with 2 followers. Not that people with, few followers aren't just as important in the human scope as anyone else, but these are obviously accounts set up simply to troll other accounts and with an agenda. And this is what's going on. And, I sent you, I think this is related, but I sent you an article from a website called Pathos, which basically addressed this too, of these Facebook pages and websites that are putting out basically bogus clickbait headlines because they're making money off of the advertising. And you click on this, and we've talked about this before. You click on the headline, you waste your time reading the article and realize that the headline actually doesn't match the article, and you just got fooled and basically rickrolled. And Pathos actually put up, and I think I did put it up on our Facebook page and put it out on Twitter also, that article. They have a list of all of these websites. Or the ones that they deem to be clickbait and basically false advertising and a waste of time. And supposedly, Tony, I mean, Facebook is supposed to be addressing this, but I'm still seeing this crap on my feed.
Well, I don't know when they're going to pull the string on that, Facebook that is. But, yeah, people need to be careful. People need to be aware. People need to be smarter. And I know I'm asking a lot because we know that none of that usually happens. And it's a sad reflection of how lazy we've become as consumers of news. I shared with you this morning that I posted the George H.W. Bush story, and I did it from the Telegraph in the UK. And the reason I did that is for those that are going to click through, I'm hoping some of them notice that, maybe read some of the other articles. I doubt it, but, it's one of the sources that I use. And it just seems to me that people don't care about the truth. And I don't know if there's a news fatigue, a politics fatigue, but I can't begin to tell you how many times I've talked to people, or if I'm at a family event, and people say, well, I've stopped watching the news because it's too depressing. There's nothing but bad news, and so on and so forth. Well, an uninformed populace, we'll go back to your quote, we get the government we deserve. And, well, it's not yours, but you like to use it. And unfortunately, I think that a lot of times that's because people vote or don't vote because they're just fatigued for whatever reason. Interestingly, I was at a fundraiser on Friday night, and there were a lot of judicial candidates there. And I don't know about in Massachusetts, but in Michigan, they put the judicial candidates at the bottom of the ballot or the opposite side of the ballot. And we have what's called straight ticket voting, and I don't know if you have that in Massachusetts either, where you can just vote Democrat, and every Democrat on the ballot gets elected or gets selected. Unfortunately, judicial candidates are nonpartisan, so if people think that they're voting straight ticket, they're also voting for the judges they're not. And so I encourage people on Friday night to turn the ballot over and vote from the bottom up as opposed to from the top down. This is a serious problem. And, unfortunately, and I don't, again, know what it's like in your state, but if somebody has an Irish surname or they have a familiar surname, they get a vote. More interestingly, one of the candidates that's running for the circuit court, his name is Brian Morrow. He's knocking doors, and this woman says, "Oh, I voted for you in the primary. Get a load of this, see?" He goes, "Oh, really? That's wonderful. Can I ask why?" And she goes, "Yeah, I have a cousin named Brian Morrow."
Well, I don't have a cousin named Donald Trump, but if I did.
So anyway, I'm flummoxed by the electorate.
And you know what, Tony? The amount of articles and politicians are, well, they're kind of like Skittles.
Oh boy. You need to explain that comment for those that haven't seen it.
Yeah, so Donnie Jr., Donald Trump Jr., found a meme that can be traced back to a couple of white supremacist memes, along with Joe Walsh also, saying that's the point I made last month. What Donald Trump was sharing on Twitter was there's a picture of a bowl of Skittles, and it says, "If I had a bowl of Skittles and I told you just 3 would kill you, would you take a handful? That's our Syrian refugee problem."
Oh my God.
Yeah, so he got slammed. Here's the interesting thing. He got slammed on Twitter. People posting pictures of one, that little kid in shock. in the ambulance. Another one with pictures of the Jews that were turned back in 1939. 900 Jews on a ship from Nazi Germany to the U.S. were sent back, and 25% of them died in the Holocaust, not Skittles, the tweet says. The more interesting one was the Vice President of Corporate Affairs, Dennis Young, of Skittles, of the company that makes Skittles, wrote, "Skittles are candy, refugees are people. We don't feel it's an appropriate analogy. We will respectfully refrain from further commentary, as anything else we say could be misinterpreted as marketing." That was probably one of the better statements from a corporation I've seen in a long time.
Well, I'm scratching my head here.
I don't even like Skittles, and I'm thinking of buying a bag today.
No, actually, I do like Skittles, and they are addictive, by the way.
Yeah, I don't like fruity things.
Not for you. And yet, yeah, do a show with me every day. I appreciate that.
It's funny. My wife and I have this friend, Damien. He's Irish, from Ireland, and he also happens to be gay. We have a lot of gay friends. Not that there's anything wrong with that, as Seinfeld would say. But I refer to him as Damien the Irish Fruit.
Okay. I'm sure he appreciates that.
And I love Damien.
I'm not gay, by the way, just so we understand that. Not
that there's anything wrong with that.
Right, absolutely. But this goes back to, how many times have we said, Donald Trump has, for all intents and purposes, has disqualified himself as commander-in-chief material. His children continue to perpetuate the racist motives of their father. I told you this morning that there's a report out that Ivanka Trump now has Secret Service protection 24/7. And it didn't say why, and it didn't know why. I can guess, but I'm not going to do that. It just, it seems to me that we continue to see a campaign that should have imploded a long time ago and has not, for whatever reason. And again, I'm not believing the poll numbers that I'm seeing, and I refuse to relent on that. I will say this, and now we'll talk about the debates. I think that Hillary Clinton has the greatest challenge of her life, because we don't know what Lester Holt's going to ask, do we? I mean, we know what the topics are, but we don't know what the questions are.
True.
All right. Now, we know that Donald Trump originally said, all the moderators are great. He's changed his tune on that and said, we shouldn't even have moderators. So where do you think he stands on Lester Holt?
Yeah. I don't know. Do you want to play the audio?
Let's go to the board.
Trump on his opinion of Lester Holt.
Do you worry about that? Nice show. That someone does an interview with you that comes out good and that their career could be hurt?
Well, I'm going to be treated very unfairly during the debate because there's such pressure. Matt Lauer was very fair, and he did a very good job, and everybody said I won that debate, if you call it a debate, the one on NBC last week, the town hall. They said that was the forum.
Yep.
They said that was an event that I won. And Matt Lauer was badly criticized.
He sure was.
And I think, I'll be honest, I think that system is
Are you thinking this moderator, who's going to be?
On Monday, Hofstra?
It's going to be Lester Holt.
Are you worried that Lester Holt is going to be unfair to you now?
Well, I have a set of things that I'll be doing if that's the case.
Sure.
I've always found him to be fair, but the system, as I said, it's a very, very dirty system, and it's a very unfair system. So we'll see what happens. But I feel very confident going into the debate. I have much better, solutions to problems. We have plenty of problems. You look at what's going on, but now a new problem comes up, and that's these people that are pouring into our country, and we have to do something about it. We have to stop it.
Okay, and
we have to stop it, and we have to stop it, and we have to stop it now.
He's exhausting.
It really is, isn't he? Now, what do you think constitutes unfair? You asked me a question about something I don't know about. Is that going to be considered unfair?
Well, let's go back to a minute for the Commander-in-Chief forum, which he just claims everybody said he won.
That he won.
I didn't read a single piece of media, mainstream or otherwise, that said that Donald Trump won.
Is that even something that you can win?
No, of course not. And it wasn't a debate. It was indeed a forum. Matt Lauer was widely criticized for one reason. Donald Trump had lied, and Matt Lauer did not confront those lies. In fact, Donald Trump didn't answer a single one of the questions that were asked. Not one. Not one in 30 minutes. And Matt Lauer should have been criticized for the way he allowed Donald Trump to, ramble on. He was harsher on Hillary Clinton than he was on Donald Trump, but we'll let that go. So let's fast forward to next Monday. And, it's going to be one of those things where if he doesn't do well, the next day it will be the debate was rigged.
Yeah.
If he does do well, then it will be whatever he wants it to be. I have no idea how he'll spin that. But I think that Monday is critical for Hillary Clinton. And I think that the way she wins this thing is not to get pulled in to his theatrics. She should let him look like the ass that he is. She should answer in measured and even tones. If she disagrees with him, she should point out that he is not telling the truth, that he is or ill-informed or underinformed, and, just give the answers the way she is practicing them. You saw the story a few weeks ago that they were having trouble figuring out who to use as a stand-in for Donald Trump in debate practice. I had asked my network for some names. Carrot Top came up. Bobcat Goldthwait came up. Lots of really good ones, by the way. I mean, Pee-wee Herman came up, and others. How the hell do you prepare for a debate with Donald Trump? Even after you've seen all the ones he did with the Republican candidates, how the hell do you prepare for that?
Lewis Black would do it.
Yeah, somebody got, he was just in Michigan doing a show last Saturday, and some senior citizen got up and said, F you, and walked out. So, Trump supporter, by the way. Lewis Black is hilarious. Lewis Black is hilarious. But seriously, how do you prepare for that debate? If you're a part of the Clinton campaign, do you stick to issues? Do you try to stick to issues? Do you interrupt her constantly and so that she can ease her way back into this? There are going to be rules. Will Donald Trump follow those rules? 2 minute, 1 minute, 2 minutes. Can he even do that?
I'm going to say no right off the bat. I'm sure our show on Tuesday is going to be interesting.
I believe that there will be a record number of people that watch that debate on Monday night. And by the way, it's 90 minutes commercial free.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's going to be exhausting.
For all of us.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Did you see Hillary Clinton on Jimmy Fallon?
I saw parts of it.
Well, when she came out, he had that mask over his face.
Yeah, and the hand sanitizer.
Right, that was hilarious. That was really funny. So Tuesday night is this major, I think, quintessential moment for both candidates, and again, Donald Trump will spin it the way he wants. Again, if he doesn't do well, the questions were wrong. It was rigged. The Clinton campaign provided the questions, or they gave them to her in advance. He's gonna have some kind of cockamamie excuse. The trouble is, there are still a lot of people out there that, as long as he says it, it's going to be true.
Yeah, it's getting a little terrifying, Tony.
It truly is. So, with that discussion out of the way, your thoughts on Herbert Walker Bush saying he will vote for Hillary Clinton?
I think that took stones.
Good for you. Good for you, Z. That was a great response. That was a great response. I agree with you. It's interesting. Michelle Obama has become quite close to Laura Bush. I don't know if people are aware of that, but they've become good friends. They did an event the other day. It was a First Ladies thing. As you know, a Democrat. Well, maybe she is. As you know, Bill Clinton and Papa Bush have become the best of friends, and did a lot of international aid work together. Interestingly, I'm watching MSNBC yesterday evening, and Chris Matthews had Maureen Dowd on, who just wrote a book called the election, something along the lines of the year of vote. It's the year of voting dangerously. And at the end of the interview, it was a very short interview, Chris Matthews asked her. Now, I respect her a great deal. Donald Trump has been attacking her lately as a clown, as crazy, etc., because she keeps calling him out for the truth. But he asked her, who is your favorite Bush? And she said, Papa Bush. And Chris Matthews and very quickly said, it's amazing what time does. And he's right. It is amazing what time does. We have a tendency to forget. We have and I think the other thing is we juxtapose presidents over presidents over presidents. Listen, I'll never forgive George W. Bush for what he did. Never. Dick Cheney should be in prison right now. What they did to Valerie Plame is inexcusable. And Scooter Libby going to jail for that wasn't enough. That was Dick Cheney's doing. I can't forgive this man. I can't forgive this administration. But others already have, and they've moved on. And that happens. I mean, time does that. It really does.
I've forgiven you for a lot of things,
and you.
And I had. Well, we're not going to get into that.
For getting you into this to begin with, huh?
You know what? What this is our 92nd show, by the way.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. And I do want to remind people, I know we don't generally do this, but we also need to start doing this at the beginning of the show, even though there's that little intro. We do need listener support. You can do that. We'll give it again at the end of the show, but please do go to tnztalk.com, find out how to support us. There's our little quick ad, tnztalk.com, and click on support. We need your help for us to be able to keep doing this.
That would be lovely. It truly would be lovely. All right, well, let's go back to the board. Spin the wheel and tell me where you want to go.
You tell me there, Tony Tripiano. You know what I'd like to do, because I had this the other day. Kiara Mayo, who is involved in several organizations that monitor the media for fair and balancedness, was on CNN the other day, giving basically an indictment about the way the media has covered Trump. She's the senior vice president of content and brand at Interactive One, which is an organization that monitors media and the press and their coverage of events. So I thought this was a very graceful and dignified response to all of this, and I'd like to play that if you are amenable to that, sir.
I am amenable to that, and go ahead and hit the play button.
Right on.
Make of all this
absurdity. At this point, I'm tired of talking about the man as though there is anything about this campaign at this point that isn't vile, isn't offensive to African Americans in particular, but to all Americans, to all thinking Americans. And at this point, we're parsing apart the crazy when in fact we've gotten to such a height that it's challenging how all of us are interpreting the news. I think all of us have lost our lens. Certainly media has, myself included, yourself included. The inundation that this has been in our collective psyche to have to try to make sense of this person who is espousing such terrorist language in his speeches, in his extemporaneous, off-the-top conversation, everything about him. My heart is palpitating at this point because I've given a lot of thought to Donald Trump, and I'm tired of thinking.
Let me ask you this: as an observer of the culture, as someone who has criticized and observes media, you said, we've lost our lens.
We have.
It's interesting when you're sitting here as a person who is objective and who questions people. There is a difference between being objective and pointing out the truth or not pointing out the truth. It is also an obligation to point out absurdity, to point out lies, to point out the truth, not to ignore them and pretend that there is some false equivalency to something that is not the norm.
And that would be more like objectivity. But instead we frame this as though this is the norm, as though this is okay, as though this is a standard that we're all comfortable with. It's concerning.
Yeah.
Concerning. Well, it is exhausting. You and I have talked about this more off-air than on-air, but there are days we don't want to do this. Not the podcast. We don't want to do the Donald Trump show. But as you pointed out yesterday, how can you not? You can't ignore that this happened. We can't talk policy because the candidates don't talk policy.
Well, and that's exactly it. Also, Brian Butler of the New Republic had written something up along these lines of what Kierana Mayo was saying, and I want to go through part of it. What he begins with is, it's not normal in modern times for a major party nominee to be an erratic racist demagogue, and it is almost definitionally abnormal for a major party nominee to be described as such by leading members of his own party. He goes on with a variation of that, and then I just want to read these two paragraphs. For several weeks now, including since Labor Day, when most Americans truly began paying attention to the campaign, these truths, which we all took for granted 6 months ago, have not been communicated to glancing news consumers. They've receded from most article leads, headlines, front pages, and A-block TV segments. That development is the product of many collective choices and thousands of individual ones. It is an institutional failure, and as such, a major and abrupt course correction seems highly unlikely. But that doesn't absolve reporters, editors, producers, or anyone else who is part of the system. So, what's heartening about all of this is, and you and I have been talking about this for the better part of a couple of weeks worth of shows now, is that the media is starting to admit to their complicity in this. What's upsetting is that they weren't before, and that was never better said than, I think it was the CEO of CBS saying Donald Trump is horrible for the country, but he's great for ratings.
Yes, that is true. We played that audio, in fact. intellectuals get it. We know that educated voters get it. But we look at the numbers. I'll give you an example. I saw a poll this morning on MSNBC that Hillary Clinton in the last month has lost 17% of millennials. Now, they haven't gone to Donald Trump. Donald Trump has gone down 4%. They have gone to mostly Gary Johnson, the Libertarian candidate, and a small portion to Jill Stein, the Green Party candidate. What I find interesting about that is I'll give you an example beyond Aleppo. Yesterday, Gary Johnson was asked about the bombings in New York and New Jersey. His comment was, well, thankfully, nobody was injured. There were 29 people injured.
Yeah.
So...
Well, he didn't get the security briefings, Tony.
Not the point. and you know that. Z, I mean, why are 17% of millennials flocking to this guy and leaving Hillary Clinton? What is it about her? She's not a liar. She's not Donald Trump. She is, if you want to, she is the bizarro Donald Trump, the exact opposite of Donald Trump. And yet, she can't get traction. I mean, she should be up by double digits.
Yeah, but here, we live in a society right now where everyone gets their news from Facebook and Twitter, right? And I'm not talking about our pages on Facebook, like TNZ Talk or my Zombeck page, but my personal page and news feed is Hillary Clinton's a liar, Hillary Clinton's a liar, Hillary Clinton's a liar, Hillary Clinton's a liar. And that, if that's all you're seeing, well then, Hillary Clinton's a liar. It doesn't matter that an article comes out in the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Guardian, the BBC, Al Jazeera, America, Al Jazeera, whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that PolitiFact rates her as truthful almost 90% of the time. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. It does matter. To you and I, it matters. To people who can listen to nuanced conversation and broadcasting and radio. I was listening to NPR yesterday, and they were having this extremely complex conversation about a topic that wasn't of particular interest to me, but they were discussing a lot of nuances, and that doesn't work on the majority of people who are getting their news from Facebook very quickly. You don't have time to listen. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm saying people feel like they don't have time to listen to a half-hour conversation on a complex topic. And what we're talking about here, with everything from New York bombings to Aleppo to the immigration to the refugee issue to healthcare, it's nuanced. There are underlying causes and conditions to all of these that need to be discussed, and there are outcomes that are going to be based on some of these decisions. And we're in a soundbite mentality in society where Donald Trump says we have to get rid of all Muslims, and people go, right on, because it's a quick and easy answer, and people want quick and easy answers. And if you're constantly seeing that Hillary Clinton's a liar, well, then you're going, well, then, maybe she's a liar. I mean, why would this be coming up all the time that she's lying?
Well, it's interesting. I don't know if you've noticed that he doesn't call her Crooked Hillary in rallies, but he does in his tweets.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what the purpose of that is, but,
I don't think there's any rhyme or reason to Donald Trump, Tony. I don't think there's, this is something that, Mika Brzezinski talked about, is that we end up talking in circles, trying to figure out what his plan, because in the past, other candidates have had plans. They've had a ground game. They have a campaign strategy. And we keep going, and the media keeps looking at it and going, what's his strategy here? He doesn't have a strategy. It's like, how are you prepping for the debates? Well, I'm going to get up in the morning, put on my underwear. Hopefully I don't put it on backwards because I'm a total friggin' moron, and I'm just going to wing it. And believe me, trust me, it's going to be just fine. Believe me.
Well, as Jimmy Kimmel said yesterday, Donald Trump is at home rubbing up against malaria while she pretends to sleep. I can definitely see that happening. Let's go back to the board and listen to the Don Lemon audio. I think that there's some nuggets of gold in that.
Yeah, this is again about the birther issue. Don Lemon, of course, African American, CNN. Here he is.
So short, and he didn't even entertain the idea of going those extra miles to answer the most basic, obvious questions that will come after that new declaration.
Yeah, go ahead, Don.
Wrong. I mean, listen, we're all adults here. Let's be honest. You know when someone means something. You know when someone is being disingenuous. If I say to you, Wolf, I'm really sorry, I apologize. You know when I'm being honest. So I watched today, along with millions of other people, and Donald Trump was not being honest. He did not want to say those words. And he insulted this, and this is something that's very personal for African Americans. And not only for African Americans, but for any decent human being out there. He insulted millions of people and the sitting president of the United States today with what he did. What he did was insulting. There are other words that I could say, but I won't use on television. And what the problem with all of this is that Donald Trump and his surrogates and his supporters, they think that this is an issue that's behind him. This is something that's going to help him. It's not going to help him. It's not going to help him with African Americans. It's not going to help him with decent people in America. And it's certainly not going to help his people when they come on to shows like ours because they're being completely disingenuous. Even the congressman that you had on, Sean Duffy, as nice a guy as he may be, and he's not here to defend himself, but he was turning cartwheels to try to come up with some explanation to make this right with what Donald Trump did. He said Hillary Clinton was one of his supporters. Those same people will come on and say the people who hit people, who yell at people, who say vile things on the internet from Donald Trump's camp, that he cannot be responsible for his supporters and some of the people who volunteer for him. Well, if he can't be responsible for those people, then Hillary Clinton can't be responsible for her people as well. So it is a double standard here that they are trying to, and they're jumping through hoops. I don't believe what Donald Trump said. I don't think most of America believes what Donald Trump said. And if he really did believe what he said, he would say, I apologize to the President of the United States, not only for putting that out there, I should never have done it in the first place. Not for not believing that his birth certificate isn't real, but I should not have done it in the first place. It was wrong, it was awful, and I shouldn't have tried to delegitimize the first African-American president.
Okay, let's jump to the Carl Bernstein piece because I think it fits nicely with the conversation that we're having. Sadly enough, it fits nicely with the conversation that we've been having. Even Don Lemon's comments really are a reflection of how the media is covering this. I will say one of the encouraging things that happened after the birther press conference and the media getting pissed off about the fact that it ended up being an infomercial for Trump's new hotel was that they have been shameless in going after him on this issue. But is it too little too late is the question, Z?
What I'm fascinated with right now, and, again, we'll go back. This started with basically our mutual love and fan club for for Joy Reid, and then noticing also that female reporters were more apt to question surrogates to their face, and then little by little, some of the male commenters started saying things, and now we're seeing actually the word lying being used. And I can't stress this enough in journalism. That word is really left for lies. I mean, it's rare that you see a reputable newspaper or news outlet use the term lying.
And there's a reason for that, Z. There are slander rules, and in the court of law, if you're going to use the word lie, you're going to have to be able to prove it.
Yeah, exactly, and that's exactly it. And they obviously feel, excuse me, they obviously feel that they can. What I'm finding with, we played Torre the other day, who was on Joy Reid's show. We just played Don Lemon. What I'm finding is I'm seeing, look, the media has been very comfortable, okay, and I think to a certain degree, they've been liking their comfort. I remember a few years back, I'm watching CNN, and Wolf Blitzer gets on, and he makes this announcement. This was part of his show. He made this announcement that he felt he had gotten, for lack of a better term, I'm going to say lazy, and comfortable in his position, and basically had a come-to-Jesus moment where he announced to the audience that he was going to try to do a better job at really being an investigative reporter, at really pushing for questions, for answers from his guests, that he felt he didn't like his role as, what most of us describe as a talking head. And I was visibly overjoyed by this announcement. It lasted about 24 hours. And he went back to, the usual thing. I don't particularly care for Blitzer. But we've seen this over time, that we've had more talking heads, more people that just nod when someone says something completely ridiculous. They interview people, and they say we saw it with Matt Lauer got accused of not calling Trump out on his lies. And I think what we're seeing is a certain segment of the journalistic population have these insightful moments where they're going, wait a minute, I didn't get into this for this. This wasn't why I started. This isn't why I came into this industry and took this job. I wanted to
let me throw a name out there.
The truth.
Luke Russert.
Yeah.
Luke Russert, I think, is a prime example of that.
Yeah.
Let's listen to the Carl Bernstein piece, because it fits in nicely with our conversation.
Absolutely. Do you want to remind people who Carl Bernstein is?
One of the greatest reporters of all time. If you don't know who Woodward and Bernstein are, then where the hell have you been? Watergate, folks. Watergate.
Watergate. There we go. All right. Here, during, of course, the Nixon administration. Here's Carl Bernstein on CNN. This is a little long, so just hear it out.
Interesting. Let's talk about the last 7 days of Hillary Clinton's campaign. She had her near collapse this time last Sunday, off the campaign trail for several days, now back on the campaign trail. Has she, you think, fully recovered in a political and media sense from what happened last weekend?
I don't know the answer to that question, because there is a much larger question about the overall coverage of this campaign by the electronic media, by cable and network news. We've been terrific at interpretation, at giving equal time to debate panels, but we've been positively awful in terms of reporting in a coherent way the biggest story of this campaign, the real existing life and record of Donald Trump. The New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal have done fabulous reporting on this, and we give snippets of it. We need to be doing an hour, 2 hours a night of real biography, running it over and over, of what Trump's life and record have been about, because they're at absolute odds with the mythical and lying story that he has told us. He's a con man. It's been established. And also, he has presided over a cover-up of his own life, and we have allowed it in cable news and network news particularly.
Well, here we are talking about it. I think some people have talked about it, but I got to push back a little bit. I see and hear comments like yours online every day, and yet you could say it's all coming from liberals who don't want to see Trump elected. Isn't there a visceral hatred of Trump among a lot of journalists? And isn't that seeping through in the TV coverage and in the print coverage as well?
I think what's seeping through, I wouldn't call it hatred. I think there is realization, and it's not just liberals. I think it's conservatives, too. There is realization that Trump is a con man, and that is a big part of the story. Look, we have reported, and nobody's been tougher on Hillary Clinton, especially on the server question, than I. I've said it's indefensible, what she did with it. But and we have reported on her whole life. She has been around for 25, 30 years in public, on the public stage, and we know her every position and record and her life. Trump is different. He's a new kid on the block in terms of being in a presidential campaign. We need to do what the Washington Post, the New York Times, and the other print press or old-fashioned media has done, which is to report the real existing record repeatedly. That is the story here, and that's where the Clinton campaign has a really good beef against the media. It's not equal. It's disequal that we have allowed Donald Trump to play us like this, and we focus on his outrageous statements, which we do every day, and we give equal time to those on his side and Hillary's side debating these crazy statements and positions that he changes every day, and we analyze that. But do we go back and look at his whole business record? No, we don't. How about a real investigative biography on MSNBC, on CNN, that runs every night about Donald Trump and about Hillary Clinton, about their two lives? Put them side by side and run it every night until the debates.
Hear, hear.
What do you think, Tony?
I think he's right. I think that he is incredibly right. Oh, sweet Jesus!
I forget the guy's name who that interview was with. But
it doesn't matter. Carl Bernstein is what mattered.
Brian Stelter,
okay.
who another person I don't really care for. But that said, there was here. I mean. Bernstein is right. The unfortunate part about this is that news media doesn't have the resources to handle that. They don't have the financial ability. They don't have the backing of the networks. They don't have they don't have the resources to do what he's asking them to do. And what was interesting is yesterday, Rachel Maddow was talking about the New Jersey kerfuffle, Bridgegate, with Chris Christie, and the newspaper, and I forget the name of it, but it's I think the second largest newspaper in New Jersey. That uncovered all of this, that did the investigation on this, that brought this to the attention of people all over the country, that made this news, was recently bought by a large conglomerate, and they laid off half of the staff. So this is what's happening to state and local newspapers. And, this is a prime example. This was important reporting. This was important investigative reporting. This brought something that this guy could have been president. This guy ran for the highest office in the country and was involved in a scandal where he used state resources to basically slap the mayor of a neighboring town for not endorsing him, and allegedly. And the local newspaper uncovered it. They did a ton of investigation on this. And last week, or yesterday, it was announced that they were bought, and they laid off half their staff.
Yeah, well, welcome to the new world of quote-unquote journalism. Listen, I don't mean to cut this this conversation short, but there is one more piece of audio that I wanted to get to. There was a shooting in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the other day. A cop shot a black man, and after the fact, we found out that Not only did this guy not have a gun on him or in his vehicle, they tasered him and then shot him and killed him. And there's no reason for this. And I grabbed some audio this morning, and it's the last half. You're gonna hear there were police helicopter above. You're going to hear them talk as they're following what's going on the ground, and then there was a press conference. So if we could, let's play that.
Still walking and following commands.
Not for taser, I think.
Got a feeling that's about to happen.
That looks like a bad dude, too, to be honest with them.
Which way are they facing?
Police 1, they're facing westbound. I think he may have just been tasered.
Shots fired!
The first caller informed that a male ran from the vehicle saying it's going to blow. Remember, Officer Shelby is en route to another call, but she comes across this at 7:41. Found it abandoned in the roadway. She informs the dispatcher that she's not having cooperation from the person there, and I'm not going to get into more detail on that. That will come out later. One shot was fired by Officer Shelby, and a taser was deployed by Officer Tyler Turnbow. I'm going to tell you right here now, there was no gun on the suspect or in the suspect's vehicle. I want to assure our community, and I want to assure all of you and people across the nation who are going to be looking at this, we will achieve justice.
You all want to know who that big bad dude was? That big bad dude was my twin brother. That big bad dude was a father. That big bad dude was a son. That big bad dude was enrolled at Tulsa Community College, just wanting to make us proud. We're demanding today, immediately, that charges are pressed against this officer that was incompetent, that took my brother's life. We're demanding that, and it's time for everybody to demand that this stops and that justice is served.
Oh, heavy stuff, Z, heavy stuff. Yeah. You know, as we get ready to wrap it up today, and again, we don't have all the details on this, and of course they will come out. There is going to be a very thorough investigation. I would assume that the federal agents will get involved, which is usually what happens in a situation like this. The cops don't get to police themselves. They normally don't get to do their internal investigation, although they will be, of course, assisting in that effort. But when people begin to wonder why African Americans in this country are so angry, are so discouraged, are so disappointed, are empowering organizations like Black Lives Matter, which, by the way, has found a place in the new African American Museum that opened the other day in Washington, D.C. This is why. This is why. It's very discouraging. You tasered the guy. Why did you have to shoot him and kill him?
Yeah.
You know, it's just wrong. Anyway, let's give the 411 again on TNZ Talk, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so we do need your support. You can go to tnztalk.com, click on support, find out how to support us. Also, you can find our archives there. I just had a brain fart. Facebook and Twitter, and all the ways that you can listen to us, from iTunes to Stitcher to YouTube to iHeartRadio. All of that's on our website at tnztalk.com.
Okay, and that's that for today. We will be off tomorrow, back on Thursday. And so we bid you all a fair adieu. For Richard Zombeck, I am Tony Trupiano, and as always, we ask that you be well.
yeah, can you feel it? Just over the credits, just riffing now. Words and chords. Not the poetry and the real thing, but not bad for an ad-lib. Not good, but... And it's not long enough, so just do a little bit more. And that's nearly done. That's the final credit there. That's the end.